Have you ever gotten ripped off by self-publishing companies? Well, if you have, or if you haven't and want to avoid that happening, you're going to want to stick around. This is Chris Baird from selfpublishingmadeeasynow.com, where self-publishing doesn't have to be so hard. That's the reason why we are discussing the worst self-publishing companies you need to avoid in 2023. So what are the worst self-publishing companies to avoid? Well, there are a couple of signs that you can have. Now, I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not going to name them out because if I did that, I would get in serious trouble. But if you're wondering that maybe they are just fine or maybe whatever, we'll check with people who've gone with them and you will find out. But here are the key things they all have in common. Maybe one or more of these specific problems are things that you're going to find. So the first thing is you have our vanity presses pretending to be traditional publishers. Now, what exactly is a vanity press? Well, it's going to be a company where you have to pay them for the services in order to get your book on the market. Whereas with a traditional publisher, there is no transfer of money from you to them. Rather, they go through lots and lots of manuscripts, and then after looking through them, they select someone. Maybe you have an agent who comes in contact with them, and then they're willing to pay you in advance, money in advance for the work that you're going to write or the document that you have already, the manuscript you've already written. Then they're going to take it through all this editing, and they're going to have a cover design, and they're going to do all of these things to give your book the best chance it can as a traditional publisher. And how much do you pay for these services? Well, you don't pay anything at all. That's a traditional publisher. With vanity publishers, the way that they will try to trick you is that they will start off by saying, we only select a few of the absolute best authors to be represented by our amazing publishing house. And then you're like, wow, they sound very professional. You've been to their website and it seems very, legitimate that they don't accept very many. And so you send, and they say, well, even unlike those other ones, we will review your book for free and let you know if you pass the test. And then what happens is you send it to them and they might say, well, we looked at it and maybe if you just make a few changes, and then you make those changes and send it back and they go, okay, your book has been accepted by our our publishing house, right? They, of course, don't call themselves vanity presses. And then what happens is they say, now you just have to pay us $10,000 in order to fully get this onto the market and everything fantastic. And you think, wow, I was selected. I actually won. So this is a really big honor. In reality, they really select almost everyone. And one of the things I warn here is if you're ever wondering about any of them, go and find a Facebook group. Find a place on the internet where everybody who's gone with them is hanging out and they can talk about how well it worked out and how they've gone with multiple books. Because if you can't find people in that category, you probably should stay away from this particular model. I have no problem with this model, actually. It's just you need to understand in the beginning it's going to cost you a lot of money, but then they're going to do all of the services for you in exchange for your money. Number 2. Book deals promised by literary agents. And where this one is a scam is that you have people who present themselves as agents, like they have all these contacts with publishing houses and such, and they promise you just have to pay them a lot of money. But in reality, their failure rate is so massively high. We're saying 99% of all of the self-publishers they help get a deal never get a deal. Okay, so they don't have connections. They don't have any way to really land you a deal. They may have done it for one person. They may have had somebody who actually did, who maybe was an a person who was a really high level author, and then they were able to say, oh, look, I helped you get this job, and then they use them across the board. Again, I would highly recommend you want to speak to like a forum or somewhere where you can speak to lots of people who have tried them out and say, oh, I've been with them for years and they've got multiple of my books, and you have like multiple word of mouth testimonials surrounding these agents so that you're not going to have a problem and they're not going to manage to trick you with since they're literary agents, you assume it's going to be a high percentage. I would think it depends upon what we would expect, but if they're getting less than 5% of people book deals, well then I'm not certain that this is actually a great deal. Also, what if they plug up to a vanity press in addition to really make a problem for you? Because then again, you're having to pay out of pocket, but you feel so honored that your book was selected by this company you've never really heard of before. And for some reason, there don't seem to be any forums where people are talking about that company, which is kind of odd. But go ahead and check it out for yourself. Number 3, self-publishing services that are grossly overpriced. And when I say overpriced, you can theoretically pay people really cheap on Fiverr and Upwork in order to get your book processed. But if they're overpriced and you're paying thousands and thousands, $10,000 to get your book through, I definitely don't recommend that. That's one of the reasons I teach you in my Formatting Made Easy course exactly how to go about through those steps of getting the book formatted quickly and easily yourself. So you don't have to pay anybody. You just simply take a course, you get the software, and you go through the whole thing, figure it out, and now you're able to do it yourself. And the same with ordering covers and all of these things I talk with my group coaching and my one-on-one clients. We go through exactly the steps necessary to do that. That doesn't cost you tens of thousands of dollars in order to get this through. It really shouldn't have to be so painful, and so many people regret afterwards. And so if you're ever considering one of these high-end premium services, make sure you talk, again, with people who've been through it multiple times who say, yeah, it was an amazing experience, and I've done multiple books with them, and it's just so wonderful. If you can't find these people who've done multiple books with them, that is a red flag. So consider, unless you have infinite money, then go for it. Really, they're probably going to do a fine job. People don't complain about that. What people complain about is that by the end of it all their marketing services and all their book services, they're just not getting any sales, and they're $10,000, $15,000 short on money. Okay, so number 4. Marketing packages that sound essential. And this is something that often the vanity presses do, because they will sell you in on maybe a low ticket to get you in the door, but then every single little thing is going to require some service and saying, well, if you really want to get to sell and this is your life's work, they'll say all these sorts of things in order to milk you for as much money as humanly possible. They're going to come up with services like, we'll take your book and spam it out to thousands and thousands of Twitter followers and Facebook groups and stuff. In reality, most of these services really do not result in you getting any more sales at all. Okay, so save yourself the time and the pain of hiring people. And this can even be on a place like Fiverr. You'll find some of these specific services that really are not really going to do anything for you, okay? These marketing packages is what they like to call them. And each one's like $1,000, $2,000 a piece, where they're just burning through your money, as opposed to, why don't we just sit down and we can talk it through in a group coaching session. We can talk through how to set up your ads and get things going very inexpensively on a budget. Or you can pay tens of thousands of dollars and not understand anything and really not see any sales that exceed the money that you spend. So that's how you know they're grossly overpriced. You're just not getting your money back. Number 5, writing contests and awards no one has heard about. And the thing, no one's heard of, right? And the thing is, with these specific types of contests, there are tons of these contests. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't apply for the contest. What I am saying, though, is that sometimes if nobody's heard of these contests, does it really move the needle when it comes to your book to say, I won all of these awards, when nobody's ever even heard of these awards? Secondly, the way these contests run often is you have to pay a fee to even get your book into the contest. And so this is really where the money-making part comes in. And then they will put your book through the ring around, and they'll go through your book, and then they'll choose a winner. And surprise, surprise, you have a very good chance of winning on a lot of the contests, because in reality, there aren't that many people who are actually competing in the contest, unless it's the really big ones. But in that case, it's an actual big contest that people recognize as a thing. But the question I would ask is, does your target reader, have they ever even heard of this contest? Or is this just somebody who's just making up contest for the sake of contest? And that's one of the reasons why I would say be a little bit careful when bleeding money. If you can register your books in these contests for free, then go for it. But don't kid yourself. You've never heard of most of these contests, and don't think for a second your reader is going to be tricked into believing that these contests are going to really move the needle when it comes to getting your book selling. Whereas this type of marketing activity is not particularly productive for a lot of books, even if it can be sort of like, now I feel really happy about my book. And that can be motivational, and if it builds up your motivation, then go for it. But the idea of paying lots of money for contests, thinking that somehow this is going to result in sales, you are mistaken. So you can try it, but trust me, it's probably not worth your time spending too much time with this, as opposed to writing books and focusing on better marketing activities like content marketing, which I teach in my content marketing course, using paid ads, and then building an email list so that you can help with getting reviews and such. Okay. Number 6, publishers with unethical contracts. Now, what exactly are we talking about? We're talking about self-publishing companies where what they have is they have a contract that's going to take away your rights to the book or permanently take a certain percentage of the royalties you get, or even worse, register it under their own account, and then they will tell you if you've earned any money. And every single month, nope, we haven't earned any money. And then they will try to sell you up on these package deals. And you'll find a lot of these services, they're all grouped together. Like, nope, you didn't make any sales. Well, can you send me the dashboard so I can actually see what the sales look like on Amazon? They're like, sorry, that's the contract says you don't get to see that. We will just send you all the royalties that you earn after we've taken our cut. But you can definitely increase them by buying our special marketing package for your book. And then the upselling starts again, and we start the game all over. And as you can see, the frustration starts to build. And you've been through, a lot of you have probably been through exactly these exact circumstances. So in conclusion, you need to make sure that you are not getting scammed and ripped off by these self-publishing companies that are trying to rip you off in 2023, using all of their devious tactics to try to figure out ways to get money out of you with nothing in return. There's nothing wrong with spending money on your self-publishing business. It's the scam and rip-off of doing that and then getting nothing in return, where you're not actually getting the knowledge, you're not getting the motivation, they're not telling you the steps one at a time how to go about getting your books to sell and getting them formatted correctly. My question for you today is, have you fallen for any of these specific rip-offs that I discussed here, or maybe something else? Let me know below in the comments, and check up above me for more video answers to your self-publishing questions. Thanks.